This is NTV. NTV, turning on your world.
In the last 2 decades, tourism has been one of the remarkable sectors that has galvanized, should I call it, a domestic income, and on the other side, internationally, it has brought us visitors. Today, we are having this conversation. It's how best are we going to reposition Uganda as the best tourism destination during COVID and post-COVID-19. I'm Andrew Chamagero, and this is the Private Sector Foundation Uganda conversation on how best are we revamping the tourism sector in the nation. You can be a part of this conversation. We are live on Facebook of NTV Uganda, and the same happens on the Facebook of the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. And on Twitter, the hashtag is Revisit Uganda. That is one. And then the other bit is, the other hashtag is Visit Uganda. Restart Tourism is the first hashtag. The other one is Visit Uganda. I'll be your moderator tonight, and we are having a lot of experts from the industry on different divides who are going to discuss on how best are we going to place this. But to start this conversation, with me on the first panel, I have the Honorable Daudi Migeroko. He happens to be the chairperson of the Uganda Tourism Board. It's an honor to have you, Honorable.
Thank you very much, my dear brother Chamagero.
And still we're going to have Mr. Sam Mwanda, the Executive Director, Uganda, the Executive Director, Uganda Wildlife Authority. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me, and good evening, viewers.
And we're going to have Ms. Chivi Tumsime, the Chairperson, Tourism and Hospitality Sector, that is Private Sector Foundation Uganda.
Thank you, Andrew.
And of course, we'll be joined by another expert in the industry who happens to be Mrs. Pearl H. Kakoza, President, Uganda Tourism Association.
Good evening, viewers.
Well, all these, with us, we're going to find lasting solutions on how best we can revamp the tourism and how best can we position Uganda as the best tourism destination post-COVID-19 and lockdown. But to start off this conversation, COVID-19 has hit very many people on the different scales in the tourism industry. I want to start with Nicholas Kalyango, one of those who are in the tours and the tour operators who happen to be in the wilderness or in the forests, trying to give us the better picture of what Uganda is and how badly the tourism, rather COVID-19, affected him. Nicholas Kalyango. Nicholas Kalyango, but because of sound technicalities, they will be having that clip a little later. But he's one of those that have been badly affected. Let's start off this conversation with the overview of the entire sector, the contributions of the economy, the tourism trends, the pre- and the post-COVID-19 lockdown. I'll start off with Honorable Daudi Migereko. Could you, Honorable, give us an overview of how we are holding up, and before COVID-19, how were we holding up as a nation with regards to tourism?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chamagalo. And I would like to thank the Private Sector Foundation, the Hotel Africana, and NTV, and then the various stakeholders who are here tonight for sparing time to turn up for this discussion. Lately, there has been very little talk about tourism in regard to revitalization. So I believe by holding this meeting, we may be able to talk about revitalization of the tourism industry. Before COVID, arguably, tourism was the most important sector in the economy of our country. It was growing at an exponential rate, and it was the biggest contributor to our foreign exchange earnings, which had tipped 1.6 billion US dollars in the year 2019. And the contribution to GDP was over 8%, in the region of about 8.36 trillion Uganda shillings as contribution to our economy, and also directly contributing about 700 jobs directly, not talking about the indirect ones. And mark you, when tourism is doing well, practically all the other sectors of the economy are doing well. Why? We provide a direct market for the farmers, for the agricultural products, for the textile industries, for the fabric industries, name it. And all these put together, we are making a huge contribution to the economy of our country. Come COVID, we are all thrown out of the window. Tourism ran into problems. And any talk about tourism appeared to be misplaced. And that's where we have been. At one time, there was debate organized by private sector foundation. And somebody said, as far as we are concerned in tourism, we seem to be in the intensive care ward. We are trying to make sure we get out of the intensive care ward. We have had sufficient resuscitation. And I want to tell you, we are reset for it. And for us at UTB, we have got a plan for revitalization of the industry. I'm surprised the media has not taken a lot of interest in what we have documented. I know Uganda Wildlife Authority has as well documented something to do with how to revitalize the industry during COVID period and in post-COVID period. I also know that Uganda Wildlife Education Center has done the same thing. And I know practically all of us in the industry have come together to say, what is it that we must do so that the industry does not totally collapse? And as soon as COVID knocked on the door and the lockdown was announced, the first industry to approach government about what needs to be done in order to ensure survival of the sector was the tourism sector. The hotel owners, the tour industry, the guides, the practically everybody. We came together, we spent days in the Ministry of Finance. We said we need A, B, C, D if we are going to be in a position to survive. I'm glad some of the requests that we made to do with statutory obligations, payment of statutory obligations, workers' compensation, contribution to NSSF, VAT, income tax, were considered by government. But I must say, there is still a lot to be worked on. And I can tell you, we cannot let the fire off for one simple reason. Any moment we relax, we shall be faced with real problems. And the tourism is the one area where the bulk of the indigenous people had invested. Now, if you have so many indigenous people investing, and because of COVID, they all end up collapsing or losing whatever investment they have put in, we would be having a huge, huge problem, which could have serious economic and social ramifications. I don't want to say political, but could have serious social and economic ramifications. Now, what we have been doing as leaders of the sector, and I must say the ministry has been highly supportive, highly supportive. We have presented our own plans, we have presented our own proposals, and they are being considered. The issue is, can we be able to move at a faster pace in terms of dealing with some of these things? Obviously, when you are talking about tourism, the most important thing is the security of the country. And I can tell you, in as far as peace and security is concerned, as a country, we are rated #1. It's a plus, and we need to continue taking advantage of that one. The other issue is safety and health and hygiene of the tourists, be they domestic or international. They must be assured of their health, they must be assured of their safety, and I can tell you, we have had discussions with the Minister of Health, we have had discussions with various experts, and the SOPs have been discussed, they have been approved, and we've been sensitizing the industry and the public about the standard operating procedures, so that when you come to Uganda and visit any of the tourist sites or facilities, your life is not in danger. So we have been able to pass that mark. The other mark is ensuring that the businesses really survive. This is something which people don't take seriously, but I can tell you the survival of the businesses of within the sector to us is very, very critical. And that is why we have been raising issues like the charging of interest on bank loans during COVID. This is a matter which must be attended to. This is a matter that must be addressed, because if we do not, by the time they announce the easing of lockdown or the end to COVID, we shall have people who are laden with huge loans, and the banks will be moving in to foreclose their properties, and the industry will just collapse. We are lucky that recently government, with the support of European Union, working together with UDB, has been in a position to put in place a facility which can help the industry, the hotels, the tour operators, name it. And I can tell you the kind of financing that has been made available will, to a great extent, help many people. But the fact of the matter is we need to deal with the challenges of loan computation at a time when people have no business, have no cash flow, and they expect to service their loans. This morning, I was reading about one of the properties, collaterals, that has been taken over by banks, and property put on sale. Huge property, and sold for practically a song. Now, these are things we need to deal with. We don't want all these people who have saved, who have sacrificed everything they have, to say, let us also make a contribution to our economy through tourism, to end up with nothing at the end of the day.
Thank you, Honorable.
And I'm sure these interactive sessions such as this one will help to bring up the issues that must be attended to in earnest, in an expeditious manner, such that the industry remains afloat, so that the industry can be revitalized, so that when we say we have opened up, we find an industry that is ready for business.
Thank you, Honorable. There is something, I'll come back a little later to you, something to do with the stimulus, the credit package facilities that have actually come through. Let me go to Chivi Tumsime, as the chairperson of the tourism and hospitality sector. Try to explain to us how big the effects of COVID-19 were to the hospitality sector, especially the hospitality sector.
Andrew, the effects of COVID-19 have been drastic. Like they said, we were in ICU. I think that with the opening of the lockdown, and there's no doubt that tourism must be safe. It must be safe, it must be sustainable. But with the lockdown and the loss of jobs, you have 664,000 people employed directly in the tourism industry. These people had to be asked to go home. Each of them has a family or dependents. These hotels, irrespective of whether they're occupied or not, will still incur costs. You will still need to pay for those that are upcountry, generator costs, power costs, water costs. You still have to pay your local service tax. It's day in, day out cost, irrespective of whether you have a client in that room or you don't. So it's been drastic. The visual arts sector, the art and artifact sector that has been selling these artifacts to tourists, they've had to close shop and sit in their homes. Look at the tour operators. They've had to continue to pay their office rent with no clients coming in, pay their web fees, go through the entire operational expenses still without any income coming in. Look at the tour guides who haven't been to work since February this year. These people are a critical element in the tourism industry because they're the face that the tourist deals with. So all these 664,000 plus people have been asked to stay in their homes. Now, we need to realize that their contribution to the economy is actually 7.7% of your GDP. They contribute 6.7% of your employment in this country. So you basically have thousands of people jobless, seated in their homes and not doing much. And that is why government needed to come in at a critical time. You and I, Andrew, should have been having this discussion 4 months ago. We're 4 months late, but there's still time for us to salvage what's left of the workers in the tourism industry. Now, the effects of COVID go past the tourism industry to the agriculture industry, to the trade industry, to you as well, because you actually advertise some of these people on your television stations. So there's a ripple effect throughout the economy when tourism suffers. But it's also a very sensitive economy, and that is why we need to take care of it. We actually need to see it grow. Andrew, Uganda used to be in the East African region in the early 70s. We were the preferred destination. What happened? What happened?
Wow.
So can we go back and rethink tourism? Can we reset it to see that we go leaps and bounds and get more people in? And how do you get more people in? Yes, you will open the airport, but is it safe? Would you take a flight to Iraq today to tour?
No.
No. So we need to make sure that it's sustainable. We need to make sure that we conserve for generations. We need to make sure that even when we're struggling with an economy, and I totally agree that public health should be prioritized in this COVID-19 fight. But while we're doing it, businesses need to be prioritized. Survival of businesses should be prioritized. You need to save jobs and people from hunger and strife.
And that's why we're having this conversation. Just to tap into this, Mr. Sam Mwanda, you from the Uganda Wildlife Authority, as soon as all this came into the picture, everything seemed to change. But just a few days ago, a friend of mine in Rwanda was having a gorilla tracking. And I was shocked. I was in Uganda, we are under lockdown, but on the other side, they're actually running up. Paint for us a picture. Where does this position our economy vis-a-vis the tourism aspect?
Thank you, Andrew, and very important question. And when you talk of what Rwanda is doing, I don't want to compare myself to Rwanda.
Please don't.
Because we already open our parks. We are already getting visitors. But directly to your question, how does this affect the economy? Honorable Migereko did mention, and CV2, the issues that are related to our economy, the amount of employment that we are talking about, 670,000 directly employed, and another probably 1.5 million indirectly benefiting from the business of tourism. So we are talking over 2 million Ugandans who actually are dependent on the tourism that we have in the country. And so it's extremely important that when we are considering the revival of the economy after COVID, tourism must play a priority. Because one, it is the highest foreign exchange earner. Before COVID, it was. And so if you're looking at how you would like this economy of the country to go forward, we need to find a way of ensuring that is done. And for us at Uganda Wildlife Authority, what we are doing is knowing that most of the tourists who come to Uganda come for nature-based tourism. They want to visit our parks, they want to see the gorillas, they want to see the elephants, they want to see lions. We are ensuring that we have these places where these animals are found properly protected. So we've prioritized that. Despite our limited resources, we are prioritizing the protection of the wildlife. Now, for you to protect the wildlife, you must protect it also from being a problem to your neighbors, the communities that neighbor the park. So we've also prioritized human-wildlife conflict mitigation. So if we hear a hippo is causing havoc in this village, we immediately go and intervene. If it's an elephant, we immediately go and intervene, because we want to ensure that this is protected and forms part and parcel of the revival of the economy after COVID. So that's what we are doing. And the other things that we are focusing on, for example, Queen Elizabeth National Park, Lake Mburo have a lot of what we call invasive species. They've covered big portions of the parks. We are already putting in resources to ensure that those are moved to give the right vegetation for the animals to increase in number. And that is what we are focusing on. But definitely the issue of COVID and tourism, COVID has completely disorganized tourism. Let me give you some figures. We used to get about 350,000 people in our parks annually. Before COVID. Half of those were foreigners, so they were flying in. That half is not coming. So that leaves me with about 175. Of the 175,000, I am only getting 10% into the national parks as of now. And that 175,000 will actually give me about 20% of my budget. If I'm getting 10% of that 20%, you can know now that I'm only getting 2% of the budget that I need to run the organization. And therefore, my resources are limited, and yet this is crucial that I protect the wildlife and I ensure that the Ugandans benefit from it, whether or not they are directly employed. Because when foreign exchange comes, the taxi driver will get some money. The hotel owner will get some money. Somebody who is selling food, matoke, will get some money. So it is that important that we definitely ensure that we revive our tourism as quickly as possible to ensure that the economy grows.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sam Wanda from the Uganda Wildlife Authority. It's a conversation we're still taking on, and it's one thing we can't leave. Before we go to Honorable Elika Ruhanga, allow me to engage Mrs. Palka Koza, the president of the Uganda Tourism Association. I know you're very passionate about the airport getting opened, and we can have all this back into motion. When you look at all these, once we have the airport, he's talking about half of the tourists who go in the parks flying, and now they can't fly in. Give us a context. If the airport is open, then we are following the SOPs. Will this in one or the other revitalize the tourism we need?
Thank you, Andrew. Revitalizing our tourism sector. I would first of all say that we actually need to go out and aggressively remarket Uganda. Put Uganda in the face of the foreign nationals, who actually are the highest income people who come into Uganda. They give us the highest money, more money than our own domestic tourism. Following our SOPs, yes, of course, you know, like we did have a conversation about this about last week. Cases of COVID-19 are increasing in the country. Transmission, community transmission is getting higher. This is a reality that is happening globally, not just in Uganda. On the 15th of July, Kenya started international flights, and they've seen tourists come and visit Kenya. What we're saying is we must follow SOPs and try to make the visitors as comfortable as possible, that Uganda as a country has tried its best to ensure their health and their safety. COVID might be with us for the next 1 or 2 years. What are we going to do as a country? Are we going to sit with our hands folded and we can talk until the cows come home, as they say in English? But we need some decisive action. we still maintain when the airport is open, I expect there should be some boost from our neighbors, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, who will be our first international, let's call them regional travelers. And we must market Uganda, once again, remarket Uganda under the Uganda Tourism Board. And in this time, while we're waiting for our international travelers to come, as Honorable Migeriko talked and actually wrote in the newspaper during March, we need to improve our tourism sites so that when the airport is open, we are ready. And that will spur growth in the economy, not just tourism, as my fellow panelists have said and highlighted. It will go across all sectors. It shall.
There you have it. That is Paul Kakoza, President Uganda Tourism Association. Every answer seems to be falling in the same direction. They're all pushing and pulling to the center to make sure that we revitalize and revamp the tourism in our nation. Now, joining us via the online, the new normal that is online, that is Honorable Eli Karuhanga, who happens to be the Chairperson, Board of Directors, Private Sector Foundation. If you can hear us, Honorable, kindly give us the remarks to start this officially now.
Viewers, please, the world is going through an unprecedented situation right now. We have a pandemic. This means some disease which happens once in 100 years, ravaging the whole planet. We have 25 million cases affected already in such a short time. We have almost 1 million people dead, good people dead. We have in Uganda almost 2,400 cases. We have 22 COVID-19. We even have a meeting tomorrow to discuss what to do with a number of issues to recommend to the president. We have a pandemic of a magnitude only recorded, as I said, 100 years ago. We have a situation where only people 100 years old have seen it. I have my aunt here, she's 116. She probably saw it. None of us has ever experienced this. So that's one thing. So what do we do to crush this pandemic? This is the weapon of mass destruction of this pandemic. If Ugandans were disciplined and listened, and we wear this, and like Paul was doing, and we wear this 10 days, let's say 21 days, it will cease, it will disappear. So the effects of this pandemic are only controllable by a disciplined population. Without that, let's expect for the economy to go down. We were doing very well. Now we are going to go down 4.5%. Unemployment is going to spiral. We are going to lose employment. We are going to have 70% of our companies are going to have to lose business. The biggest income generating business in Uganda for our foreign exchange has been tourism. It has been the biggest foreign exchange earner, as my brother Daudi, Honorable Daudi Migereko was saying, as of Uganda Wildlife was saying, and Sivi and Paul. I've made recommendations as private sector to government. I want to thank them because they have adopted about 80% of our recommendations. And as I speak now, tourism is facing a nightmare of an economic challenge. I don't want to meet people who are in selling air tickets. Those are almost wiped out since the beginning. The entire people who invested so much money in big hotels, when I see them advertising, I don't even know where they get the money. We private sector now believe that we have to adopt a new normal, and we have to find a way and work with government on how to sort of and rejuvenate this industry. So, fellow listeners, the people you have on this forum are very experienced people in this industry. And they will tell us, and whatever they tell us, I ask the government please to listen. Uganda has a natural competitive advantage in tourism. Everybody has said it. Climate, the equator, flora and fauna, security, people, culture, unmatched anywhere in the world. Anybody who has ever visited Uganda, when you meet them and you say, I'm from Uganda, what the first thing they tell you, oh, what a beautiful country you have. In 1907, when Churchill came and visited the whole of Africa and went back and wrote in his memoirs, My African Journey, in his The Power of Africa speech, he said Uganda is the power of Africa. Anybody who has ever come here, only Ugandans don't know that this is a very beautiful country. Only those who have traveled know that this is the best country God chose. Now, besides that, so what are we going to do to harness these God-given resources? At the Private Sector Foundation, which I'm privileged now to be chairing for the time that we have in the office, me and my colleagues are thinking of ways and means, and has put it very, very succinctly. Sam has told us what's happening in the national parks. In 2010, I think, Sam, we were about 200,000 people. In 2018, we were about 350,000 people visiting, an increase of 71%. 94 new tourism, micro, small, medium enterprises are being registered in the registration bureau. Of those, 31 are owned by females. Uganda is now rated as number 4 best tourism destination in the world, according to the Travel Adventures published. We have been having a shortage of skilled workers in our sector. So we at the private sector, we have convened this conference to reposition Uganda as a preferred tourism destination. And accordingly, we have lined up all those strategic players. And I hope that most of them are listening. All the development partners who have extended support to us, especially the European Union, who recently gave us €6 million, that has to be, we have to thank them. We have been getting support from Uganda Development. You can access this money through Uganda Development Bank. And I hope that it is positioning itself and will give us this money has been negotiated. I want to thank also the World Bank and MasterCard Foundation, who are working in tandem with private sector foundation to make sure that we inject something significant in this industry. I want to appreciate also our partners, the resistance members, people who have resisted and showed resilience. The Uganda Association of Uganda Tour Operators, the Uganda Hotel Owners Association. I don't want to pass at these hotels and see the misery that is going on there. The National Skills Council, which is trying, the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Uganda Tourism Board. we at PSFU, of course, we are working with World Bank, as I said, on helping on the skills development facility. But I also want to thank NTV for organizing and being part of us in this, in fact, and the rest of the media. I think the time has come for us now to decide whether we should open the airport or not. I'm glad that tomorrow we have a meeting with the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the National Task Force on COVID, and we are going to discuss these matters. As you know, people who come on a plane from outside, probably they are the safest people because they have been tested. And in Uganda, if you can get them tested 72 hours before they arrive, the planes have been worked on and organized. The people in these international airports are not, they are serious people. When they arrive, we test them. Our airport should be organized as well. So probably these are the safest people to arrive in our country. I think they are safer than anybody else. So in my view, if they arrive and we have organized transport and we take them directly to national parks, I think, and colleagues, I think we can manage this tourism and revamp it instead of shutting the doors completely for our country. So I am appealing that my colleagues at the National Task Force will be able to see this, and I hope His Excellency the President, who has not been sleeping because of this, who has not been traveling, will balance the misfortune and the fortune. And as a keen and experienced driver, I am sure that our country is on the right keel, and I believe that this conference, this e-conference, is going to help us to have an understanding of what to do in the next steps ahead. I want to thank you, and I've said this for God and my country.
Thank you so much. That is Honorable Erika Ruhanga, who happens to be the Chairman, Board of Directors, Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. Those who are just joining this conversation, we are live on Facebook, on NTV and Private Sector Foundation, Uganda page. And those on Twitter, I want to appreciate you. I've seen some tweets coming in, and it's a conversation we're still taking on already. We got the Wildlife Authority telling us a couple of things are being done there. Then the hoteliers, the number of those who lost jobs and all that, we are finding lasting solutions. Now, to join me to look at the investment opportunities that lie in the tourism sector and what government plans to revive this sector post-COVID-19, I have Ms. Jean Byamgisha, the CEO of Uganda Hotel Owners Association. Good to have you. And we're joined by Mr. Gideon Badagawa, the Executive Director, Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. Good to have you, sir. And still we have the Honorable Daudi Migereko and Paul Kakos on the other side from the Tourism Board. I'll engage you straight up, Jean, about the hotel. While many tourism players have achieved their growth organically before COVID-19, and of course during COVID, the ones who are still thriving, just as the chairperson made it clear, he commends them. He doesn't even know how they actually are thriving through. What other alternatives could be considered into tapping the new opportunities the market has availed during COVID-19?
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, everyone. I am very much honored and grateful when people realize how bad the industry has been hit by COVID-19. And unfortunately for us, again, this is something that came out of the blue. So we had no contingency measures, we had no plan B. Even when you look at the insurance policies that hotels must have to operate, nothing like this was ever in any of our contingency policies. So how do you grade it? Was it an act of God? Was it a man made by man? How? So as a result, we have been stuck as an industry. We have nowhere to run, nobody to run to. And unfortunately, this is not an industry that is going to be able to stand on its 2 feet without support from a government in form of a stimulus package. Many of the hotels that you see, 90% of them are built using loans. These loans have had to be serviced. Many of them are, they have overhead costs that must be paid whether or not the hotel is making money. And so this makes it very difficult now without business. And like Pearl had said at the very beginning, the majority of our business has been the international market. The big dollars that run this industry come from the international market. So then what next? So the first thing that we are very grateful for is that there's been a package that is being worked out by the government with funding from Uganda Development Bank and then also the EU that is meant to help the hotels get back on their feet. Hotels are not asking for a bailout. They're not asking for any freebies. We're simply saying, we're on our knees, can you please give us a hand so that we can be able to stand up and walk again? This is an industry that employs young people, an industry that employs women, and therefore, this is an industry that really requires assistance so that we do not get into more problems that come with youth unemployment, for instance.
Absolutely. Let me just interject there. Earlier on, if I may allude to what Honorable Daudi Migoko said, you said there is a package. You're always asking for stimulus, if I may put it that way, credit facility. But the moment you put this advert out about this conversation, there are small companies within tourism that are not so broad, their names are not so stamped in the industry. They are worried about the access to these credit facilities. If this stimulus is coming through, or government comes up with this chunk of money under the Uganda Development Bank, how easy is it going to be if I'm just a simple tourism operator deep in Kiriandongo? Do we have systems in place where this money is going to reach them?
Oh yeah. The discussions that have been going on, and Jean and the Hotel Owners Association and other stakeholders have been attending these meetings. And one of the issues that has been clearly addressed is access. Because if you have got a facility of that nature and accessibility is limited, then you will not have been able to attain the objective for which it was negotiated, the objective for which it was secured. Mark you, this was a package negotiated, secured to create relief within the industry, the bulk of the industry in the country. So accessibility will not be a problem. You'll see adverts, the associations, the constituent associations in the tourism sector have already shared information freely. And I can assure you, all the associations, Uganda Hotel Owners Association, OTO, Wasaga, and the president of UTA is here. There seems to be a problem with the volume. The president of UTA is here. I'm sure they will be reaching out to people in the papers, social media, and through interactive sessions with the various interested people. But I want to say one thing. The sector has reached out even beyond European Union. Under SEDEP, which is partly managed by private sector foundation, there is also an arrangement for addressing some of the challenges of the industry, of the tourism industry. And the components of this package from the World Bank has also been under discussion by the stakeholders in the industry, by government. And yes, it is true, it's a continuation of an earlier line of credit and funding, but it encompasses quite a lot of things which also have to do with marketing, branding, investment in our various products, sites, and so on. I'm sure the Mr. Badagawa, since he's here as the key manager under SEDEP, will be in a position to provide even more information. But I can tell you, the leadership of the industry, the various associations, the ministry, it has been work day in, day out in order to make sure that programs that will permit the revitalization of the industry can take place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Owen, your question has been answered that way. Please carry on with regards to the alternatives that are currently available.
Okay. Like with every tragedy, there is usually a silver lining. So this has come. We don't know it changes every month. So as we're trying to make contingency plans, we're also looking at the silver lining. The first one is that it has leveled the ground for everybody. So now, all of us being in the same boat, it's time for those who think outside the box, who have great ideas, to be able to come out and shine, and to also give priority to other markets that we never looked at. Number one, the domestic market.
Thank you.
For the
Lord.
for the longest time, and this again was mentioned by Pearl at the beginning, where she said that the big dollars come from the international market. So the biggest return on investment of an investor in the tourism industry was the international market. But without that, now we're looking exactly at the domestic market. How can we be able to leverage what it has to offer for us to be able to survive, for us to be able to thrive as an industry? We have examples from our neighbors in Kenya who, after some bad elections, used the domestic market to be able to rebuild their engine. And now incidences like this, tragedies like this, don't hit them as hard as they hit us. So you will see in many of the social media all these great discounts by hotels, all these discounts where people even call us to say, is it real? Can I rent an entire hotel
Some
for
discounts,
5
I don't
million
believe
shillings?
them as well.
No, they are real. They are actually real. But that's the great thing about this time now. It forces us to think outside the box.
Does this, as in the same wave, does it inform the hoteliers or the tourism destinations we have as a nation to rate us in Ugandan shillings? We've traveled to destinations where you access, it's always in dollars. And what's the problem with the dollars? Can they bring it down? Because domestic tourism, the biggest factor, even online, after people saw this advert running, they were saying that domestic tourism, we're not enticed to go. I visited a place and I asked the locals around that, do you know there is a tourism site here? The locals around it, they don't know about it. But they keep saying, we see people visit the same area again and again, but they are not informed about that. So how are we crossing that bridge?
The truth is, we did not really invest as much in domestic tourism as we should have. The truth is, Ugandans have spending power. Ugandans can spend. Ugandans go on holiday to Mombasa, to Dubai, and they spend top dollar.
You're talking to one here.
Exactly. So we know that you're not afraid to spend. But the majority of our resources were concentrating on the international market. I mean, Uganda Tourism Board hired 5 PR companies to try and market Uganda abroad. That said and done, we also have a good Minister of Tourism, Honorable Chiwanda, who championed domestic tourism single-handedly, really. We must commend him with the Tulamble campaign. And now we are seeing exactly what he was talking about. You cannot go out to market this country if you haven't seen this country yourself, if you don't know this country, if you don't know the opportunities that are in this country. So COVID came in, but it has also made this opportunity now, brought it to the forefront. And we in the tourism industry are embracing it. Of course, change is difficult. If you have been pricing your hotel in dollars, it's going to take a while before you can actually price it in shillings. But there is a different market for everybody. Many hotels now are actually converting their pricing into Uganda shillings. And we will, yes, they are changing their pricing. And then we will be able to make sure that every Ugandan who can afford to travel does have a place and does have something that they can be able to travel and be excited about.
Okay. Mr. Gideon Badagawa, you, given that in Private Sector Foundation, as the Executive Director, business growth is your focus on every avenue. What role, let's first look at the opportunities in the new wake of COVID-19. In the wake of COVID-19, what new opportunities are there for the practitioners in the tourism sector?
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. And I really want to appreciate we, the organizers. You know, you need to blow your own trumpet.
Private Sector Foundation.
If you don't, maybe someone else will not.
Yeah.
But I really want also to appreciate our sponsors. The World Bank through the Skills Development Facility and the government of Uganda have supported this e-conference. And I want to also record my appreciation to NTV for making this happen. I really thank you, and thank you, the panel. I want to thank all of us and appreciate those viewers out there for coming along to listen in and give us their contributions, because I know they are online and they are making comments here and there. Andrew, we, like it has been said, we are living in very unprecedented times. Unprecedented in a sense that businesses have been closing and they continue to close. Yeah. Of course, they have been closing before on account of loans. You go to a bank, you don't pay attention to how that loan will be used, you can close and so on and so forth. But I think this was a knee-jerk. Businesses across the board, not only in the tourism sector, have faced a very, very severe challenge, like my colleagues have said before. But I want to appreciate that most of them have actually been enduring. They have endured and they continue to hang in. I mean, a hotel where we are is still open and people continue to come. Of course, there are costs, fixed or variable, that such a hotel may want to consider. You know, you may want to keep your workers at home so they don't flush your toilets, they don't, you know, they don't do all these things. So, but it's very important for us to appreciate that this is happening. Now, you talked about opportunities during this time. And for us in the private sector, we basically look at two sectors. Basically, we have 11 sectors. ICT, manufacturing, oil and gas, agriculture, tourism, all these. 11 of them, you know, spanning the entire economic structure. But to us, the biggest value chains are in agriculture and tourism, for obvious reasons. I mean, these have been said. Income growth, job creation, foreign exchange. These are the potential, these are the ones that carry the potential for supporting especially the young people. At PSF, we are now emphasizing backward integration and lead farm structures. The idea in that is to create opportunities for the young people. And tourism is one of the sectors that indeed have been selected to be able to identify opportunities where young people can be able to invest. But of course, they should be able to leverage resources that they can be able to invest across the tourism value chain, across the agricultural value chains, and so on and so forth. Now, the illusion in Uganda has been that tourism is about foreign, it's not domestic. And that has been a big challenge. When someone talks about a tourist, they tend to imagine that that tourist is coming from somewhere else. This is now the time. And you heard from Uganda Wildlife Authority. Half of them were coming from outside, half of them are actually here. Now, the thing is, from outside, maybe we cannot be able to control the external infrastructure. But when you talk about internal capacities, domestic tourism, I think this is the time now for us to appreciate that. It's very important. Because until Ugandans learn to produce by themselves and consume their own, it will be very difficult for us to market and promote tourism to anyone else to come and see what is here. It's very important. Those that are listening to us, please tweet that to someone who is not on this TV. Yeah. Ugandans must learn to produce by themselves and consume their own. It's very important. Now, when you look at Uganda, there are several tourism clusters where opportunities are found. If you look at Kigezi tourism cluster, and you have the Bunyonyis, you have the Chitagata, you have all these kinds. When you look at the Sabini, the Kapchora, the Sipi Falls, you look at Busoga tourism, the tourism cluster, you know, you have the source of the Nile, the Kaguru Hills, the Chanda. There are more than 40 tourism sites in Busoga alone as a cluster. The question is, how many Busoga have been to each of these tourism sites? The question is, how many Sabini have been to the Sipi Falls? It's there. The question is, how many Banyankore and Banyachigezi have been to Chitagata to see the hot springs, maybe even to appreciate the Bunyonyi, to appreciate all these things.
The marketing has been calling the ones abroad.
So if we are not careful, you know, it's very important when you are marketing and promoting investment. It's very important to start by yourself. Perfect. It's very important to start here. That's why, actually, even under Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, the emphasis is on domestic markets. The market is here. The schools, the culture, you know, schools, the culture, the churches, the religious, all these must appreciate what potential we have in tourism in the country. Uganda, by the way, across the Great Lakes region, has got the biggest potential in tourism. Now, that does not mean that we have the highest yield from the tourism, potential. Maybe someone else who even have half of what we have here is actually reaping more than 3 times what we do here. We have been exporting $1.6 billion. But maybe someone else who has half of the potential we have here is yielding more. What is it that they have done that we are not doing? Marketing and promotion, product development. That is very important. In fact, this is the time now for us to do product development, for us to do marketing and promotion, for us to build image of the country and promote it. The advantage we have is that the stewardship has really emphasized security. Security is one of the most obvious things any tourists want to be comfortable about. So for me, there is huge potential. And even if you don't directly invest in the tourism sector, the ancillary services, accommodation, transport, food, all these are opportunities alongside the value chain in the tourism sector. So there is huge potential for Ugandans to appreciate the capacity in terms of investment that they can be able to seize in the tourism sector. I thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Gideon Badaga, happens to be the Executive Director of the Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. Online on Twitter, I want to thank all those that are already tweeting about this. It's a conversation we ought to have. There is a question that is coming from Jackie Nablime. I think it will come to you straight up about unregulated tour operators in the country. And she goes, we have friends who are not registered tour operators, but they have ways of mobilizing us to go visit some destinations, and they don't pay taxes, they don't do, but they organize. They have a way of mobilizing us and they go. So how best can they be mainstreamed and legitimized that they can go in the business straight up? It's a conversation we're going to have. Before I come to you, Apal, we have something to do with our community tourism. It's something we're going to have, but our viewers, please drop your questions and comments on the hashtag. The hashtag is Revamp Tourism, and the other hashtag is Visit Uganda. I'll be capturing a couple of your questions a little later, and then they will be answered. Let's go and take a glimpse at community tourism. This is someone doing community tourism in Uganda and what this means to them.
Community Tourism Association. What we do is we promote community-based tourism in Uganda, helping communities to get involved in tourism. And these community enterprises are either owned by individuals or groups. The enterprises vary in sizes. We have the very micro ones at grassroots level, and we have the bigger ones owned by individuals with a bit of capital. And we also have specialized tourism like agro-tourism, sport tourism, volunteer tourism, and so on. Anything can be community tourism provided it's well packaged. Community tourism, like any other tourism, has been badly affected by the COVID-19. There are no tourists at all as I talk now. Even the few Ugandans, due to the high cost, they can hardly travel to all around the country to visit. And actually, because the income of most of the people has been affected, spending on tourism today is a hurdle, is not almost thought of. People are thinking about survival. So going for luxury is not an option today. So very limited tourists have visited. It has affected the community in terms of employment. Many of them that were employed within the tourism sector are back home seated. The income that they got is no longer there. The facilities that they run are getting ruined because of limited management and demoralization. It's very bad. The SOPs for the tourism sector are out. And because many of these community-based tourism enterprises are pretty small, we have to customize those SOPs to fit them. And in addition to that, we have to take the initiative to train them. Because many of them are not very exposed, they need a lot of training. So we need to get down there and train them. And also, actually, because of the low income or no income today, they don't have the money to implement some of those SOPs. So they need external support. For example, like buying them personal protective equipment, the temperature guns, the sanitizer dispensers, and all that. They need some support because they've really spent everything. Also, I think we have to look at, like any other player in tourism, we are looking at visitor numbers. But this time round, I think we as a country have to look at an all-inclusive marketing strategy, whereby even these very small enterprises are included, because in most cases they're excluded. We look at the big tourism products and leave out these very micro ones. But if we are talking about the grassroots community tourism, tourism trickling to the bottom of the pyramid, then it must deliberately be done to ensure that it is inclusive marketing. Inclusive marketing is very, very key in this aspect. And also, I think we have to customize the products, do a bit of research. What is needed in domestic tourism? Because we are very different people, by the way, in Uganda. What are our interests as people? Many of the people, unless you spice the game tourism, they will not feel like going there, even with the little that they have. So we have to customize, build it to ensure that we pick the interests of the Ugandans, to encourage them move around. Ugandans love partying, enjoying themselves, traveling and doing things, bring in celebrities. And also with the celebrities, they have to be given a brief of how to conduct themselves, how they have to play the role of ambassadors, because many times we use them, but we do not actually ask them to do what is expected of them. When they come back, everything is gone. So we have to customize and ensure that whatever we have is included within the package of domestic tourism. The culture tourism that we have here is nowhere in this world. Everywhere is different. After 100 kilometers is a different culture, which we actually look at in community-based tourism. So we have to customize it and ensure that the Ugandans really love it. Blend it with partying, blend it with spiced movements and everything. I think things will come out proper. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That was Helen Lubowa, who happens to be the CEO of the Uganda Community Tourism Association. You and I are challenged to the far end. When was the last time you visited a community to know about the culture? Now, this brings me to Pal Kakoza. As the president of the Uganda Tourism Association, there was a question that came in from Nabli May Jacqueline on Twitter, where she asked that, how are you planning to regulate or to legalize their friends who mobilize them and they say, let's take a road trip to Sipi Falls. And this person will mobilize and say, each one of you is going to give us 150,000. transport and accommodation and everything catered for. But he's just a friend, he's not registered under your association. How are we going to legitimize them then? That said, what role do you expect government to play in encouraging the investment in the sector?
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. These so-called unregulated, those are not my words, tour operators. There are actually several of them as we speak. Under Uganda Tourism Board last year, they started a certification process for all tour operators, travel agents, anybody involved in the tourism sector. Why? Because they want to know that the product you're issuing is up to a standard. Having said that, you know, Uganda Tourism Board is limited by only 4 people in the quality assurance department. And quality assurance for a country such as Uganda, as you've heard, diverse tourism opportunities, diverse tourism products. Actually, quality assurance should be a department on its own with minimum 100 staff. Why? To cover the whole country. Honorable Migeriko, that's something which we need to bring to your door as the private sector in tourism, so that, you know, people have got passion for tourism. We've had many of these people, they call themselves tour operators. We call them, what do we call them? That's not their real day job, they'll tell you. They do it just out of a passion and out of interest, load people on a bus, and they go for the weekend. There's drinks on the bus, party, they sleep in a manyatta.
So you've seen the travel bus?
I've seen the travel bus. I have seen it.
So the travel bus, usually we have the drinks, we have the music on, and we stop at different points. And at every different point where we stop, there is Nyama Choma, there is someone to tell us about that particular area, how big is the population, and then we continue the cruise.
Yes.
So
now,
you know about this?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
Now that is domestic tourism, which is what we're trying to promote over here. If I may also mention something about, we happened something in December last year. My husband comes from a beautiful part of Uganda, southwestern, where they have the crater lakes, 35 crater lakes in all. It's not Fort Portal. Last December, on the 26th of December, we actually organized a regatta. But because there's so many crater lakes in that region, everybody knows Amato. So we promoted it, and you know what? We were so shocked. We got about 5,000 people to come and see their fellow oarsmen compete on one of the crater lakes. This was Rizongo. And that was domestic tourism. We have, of course, Nyege Nyege, which attracts both international as well as domestic. That's, of course, a hot point in Jinja. We could also think about something for Kampala. Yes, indeed. Kampala, of course, they have blankets and wine. That's maybe
we have
for
the
the
Bayimba festival
yes,
as well.
Exactly. So we have all these. So why do we not, with Uganda Tourism Board, package all these? Every single month or every 2 weeks, there can be something going on or happening. And as Helen rightly said in her video, Ugandans like music.
Yep.
They like
they like
their alcohol and the muchomo, pork, beef, whatever it is. So I'll give a twist, also a challenge to Jean. You know, a lot of our investments is geared to the foreigner. But maybe now we can repurpose our hotel during this time to serve, you know, change the menu. Don't serve, for example, shrimp, cocktail, etc., etc. Ugandan is not going to understand that. Give them muchomo, you know, goat ribs and yes, etc., ugali, posho, and beans, etc., etc. I think that would be something worth investigating, and you may find that you would get more visitors to your establishments. Another thing I'd like to talk about, you did say that the second part of your question was how would government support some of these initiatives? You know, as Mr. Balidawa said, that there are a lot of investment opportunities in Uganda. But what we have seen is finance. Getting access to finance many times is very difficult. The bank set you up to fail, not to qualify. I'm sorry. But generally, this is what it is. And if you're a woman, no pun intended, it makes it even more difficult. How could you possibly have 40 million shillings onto your account or deposited on your account? Where did these funds come from? Banks not knowing that some people, some of us are actually Idi Amin. During the teenage years, we were actually teenagers during Amin's time. We've been working since 1984. So you tell me a person worth their salt, if you've been contributing to the national economy, PAYE, NSSF, surely you must have put a little thing away month by month. Access to finance. This is what we need. When a bank comes, you know, they want to deal with a company, a registered company. But as Helen said, many of these community tourism operators actually are not registered companies. How are you going to take someone, a reputation, you know, you say, you know, this is a person, they have good repute, etc., etc., and they shall pay back that loan. That is another way you could say that. That's the reason why SACCOs are thriving today. They've removed businesses from the banks, which should rightly be with the bank. Or else, a lot of people keep their money on their mobile phones. But how do I access finance? And as government, a very, very big thing which remains untapped is our Lake Victoria. There's so much that can be done on that lake for recreation. But we haven't tapped into it. I had a chance about 10 years ago to go to Bukasa Island. Did you know there's a waterfall on Bukasa Island? How many Ugandans or Baganda know? Actually, that is the seat of all the totems of Buganda. That is quite something. That's quite something. If we get infrastructure from the government, because these are big infrastructural projects which need to be done. For example, docking areas. If I have my boat, I should be able to dock and not go to Munyonyo to a private marina. I should be able to dock and be able to take people around. Uganda has a wealth of tourism facilities. You know, this is, as you said, is a conversation. It's something we can talk and talk about.
I totally see where it's going, but so your biggest question here, your biggest contribution is government needs to give access to credit, especially to operators.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're still having this conversation. Those online joining us, we want to thank you. We are going into something very deep, but before we go for a break, Honorable, before I let you go, what plans are there from government to see that we compete favorably? Countries like Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania. Mr. Gideon Badagawa said he doesn't want no, it was Sam Mwanda who says he doesn't want to compare himself to other countries. But benchmarking and looking at what they're doing, we need to know what is government doing to make sure that we compete favorably. Those are investing more resources in the tourism sector. I know of a country that is benefiting more than Uganda, yet what it benefits stays more in Uganda than their side. What is government doing to make sure that we can compete favorably?
Thank you very much. This whole thing of competition, in my view, is something that we cannot run away from, and it is healthy. You always need to know where you stand in terms of others. I mean, if you dress up and nobody takes the trouble to say you are smart, and smart compared to whom? Of course, to the rest that are there. So this whole thing of Uganda being in a position to measure up to the competition is one of the things that we address in this document. It's one of the things that we address in this document, and I want to encourage you to take off time and even others, and read some of these documents and be in a position to understand what proposals we are putting forward, whom we are expected to work with in order to be in a position to see the ideas that are spelled out in these documents take off. Now, you've talked about benchmarking. We have to. You've talked about competitive rates. With the digital era, everything that anybody is trying to access, he has to take into account what is happening elsewhere. And it is extremely important that we are all aware and alert to that reality. If somebody wants to take a vacation in Uganda, he will get on his telephone, on his mobile phone, he'll get on his iPad, and he'll start searching out for destinations. And the destination that will be most attractive in terms of what it has to offer is where he will put his money, and that will be the destination of choice immediately. So competition, we cannot run away from competition. And we are not only competing with East African countries, we are competing with the whole world. Anybody who gets on his iPad is sourcing and accessing information on tourist destinations all over the world. Fortunately, as a country, we have been so far doing well. When we go in for international competitions, we've won awards. Just before COVID set in, we were ranked number 6 in terms of being preferred destination in terms of meetings and conferences. Had you ever heard of that? Had you ever heard of it?
Yes, I did.
How come I've been listening to you on TV and I've never heard you mention?
I think this
so, and I can tell you, even when it comes, yes, that was from an international perspective, but also even domestically, for people to know that we have all these facilities and they are available to them for conferences, for meetings, and name it. Because when we talk about tourism, everybody has Mr. Sam Mwanja in mind. I mean, the game parks in mind. We must go to the game parks. But there are also other sports that are of attraction to people who are in for leisure, people who are in for business tourism, and name it, and so on and so forth. Now, is it competition? Is it complementarity with other East African countries? From a political level, our leaders have been talking about East African integration. And should we just let them talk? My view is that it's extremely important that our business community seeks partnerships with other companies in the neighboring countries. Fortunately, in the country, many of our operators, actually 70% of our operators, are linked up to companies in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Rwanda. Last time, I moved with a delegation to Canada, and I was with Mr. Farouk Busurwa. I thought he was part of Ugandan delegation. But when he was talking about the business his company can do, he was talking about, yes, I will arrange a package for you that takes you to Uganda, that takes you to Tanzania, that takes you to Zanzibar, that takes you to Rwanda. That was Farouk. I've listened to my brother Amos Wekesa on TV, the Great Lakes travel company. He's marketing Uganda as much as he's marketing destinations in Rwanda, in Tanzania, and so on. Wilberforce, he's doing the same thing. Sarah Kajingo, I have taken note of some of the things you've been doing. And you have become East African, you have become Pan-African, and tourism. And I can tell you, if we are going to succeed as a business community in tourism, we cannot restrict ourselves to only business in Uganda. We must, there are things that are peculiar to Uganda. There are things that are unique to Uganda. But equally, there are things that are peculiar to Tanzania.
Yeah.
There are things that are peculiar to Kenya. And anybody who gets to learn about tourism in East African region would want to be given 2 weeks of a visit to Uganda, to Tanzania, to Rwanda, to Kenya. Because Serengeti, you go to Serengeti, and what you see there is different. When you go to the mountain gorillas and Bwindi, it's something different. When you go to the source of the Nile, anybody who ever comes to East Africa will tell you, I want to go to the source of the Nile. And you can never find a source of the Nile anywhere else other than in Uganda. So the issue really which we need to look at is how do we promote and enhance this complementarity. The Ugandan market on its own is too small. We must go in for the East African market. We must go in for the African market. And why not the world market? So that when we sit here with Sarah Kajingo, she can say, yes, when you get out in Europe, when you get out in Asia, I'll organize something for you to keep you busy in China. When you are with my brother, Professor Habwe, in his own private dealings. No, he's not only in the academic world. Please, you need to understand him much better.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be able to talk about opportunities that are in different parts of East Africa, in different parts of the world. He does it, and he does it for a fee. And you know what? The earnings will benefit each of us here in our country, but also create for Ugandans, not only here in Uganda, but all over East Africa and Africa.
Thank
you. And you know, our president, this is something he has been talking about, integration of East Africa and Pan-Africanism. And why not? We can be in a position to realize the integration of East Africa by mainstreaming tourism. Because the benefits are there. You are pushing for integration, but you can see the returns almost instantly. So that benefit will help all of us appreciate why we must go in for integration.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Thank you. We're still having a lot of more conversation. Ramadan Chimbogwe on Twitter, on court, he says industry operators need to show strong, creative, innovative, resilience skills as to put in place innovation solutions to rebuild a sustainable tourism industry. Well, thank you so much. Let's keep these conversations coming through. Let's take a look at a clip of Noah Wamala Nyanzi as we are heading to another segment with regards to marketing, how best we're going to market. I want to thank all those that have been part of this conversation. I'm going to change my panel. And later on, we'll have a clip from Nicolas Sakaryango. Thank you so much, Honorable. Thank you so much, Pal. And coming up, I'm going to have Sarah Kajingo. I'm going to have Professor Wilbur Ahewa from Makerere University, Mr. Peter Mwanje, and Mr. Herbert Biaruhanga. We are going to be having a bant about regards to marketing, positioning, and not only that, skills and capacity building of the sector. This is NTV, and those online, please keep these conversations coming through. As I'm changing my panel, the ones coming up, I'm having Mr. Herbert Biaruhanga, Professor Wilbur Ahewa, and I'm having Sarah Kajingo and Peter Mwanje. But still on Twitter, something that comes in from a Prose Nyafono, I hope I pronounced your name right, says that can we also have a singular voice on promoting tourism led by stakeholders such that we are talking about a single tourist site for 24 hours a day, all year round, with all details on all the platforms. That is something she's suggesting there. Then we have Masset Paul. I think Paul to Masset on Twitter. He says, until Ugandans learn to produce by themselves, as Gideon says, it will be very difficult for us to market and promote tourism to anyone else around the world. Well, that is all that we have for now. Let's take a break and we'll be back shortly. thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. We are live on NTV and on our digital platforms, that's Facebook and YouTube, discussing how best can we position Uganda as a preferred tourist destination post-COVID-19, even during COVID-19. Now, joining me on site, I have Ms. Sarah Kajingo, who happens to be the president of the Public Relations Association Uganda, and of course a board member of the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. And not only that, we have Mr. Peter Mwanje, a member of the Association of Uganda Tour Operators. And of course, joining us, we have Mr. Herbert Biaruhanga, the chairperson, National Skills Council. And we have Professor Wilbur Hewa from Makerere University. All these are embedded within the tourism sector. Let me start with Sarah Kajingo. First and foremost, you've always come off as someone who is always tweeting and passing on information about Uganda again and again. What is your mantra to this?
Thank you, Andrew. Our country is very, very amazing. We were born and bred here. And there are national collective interests we must coalesce about as Ugandans. We each would want a peaceful country, a tourism sector that works, but above all, even amid the few challenges we experience in life, we cannot be about doom and gloom all the time. You can take a picture of a beautiful sunset, a beautiful crater lake in Fort Portal. Mbarara now is the land of milk and honey. So when you get to Mbarara or to Sipi, why not take a beautiful picture and give beautiful vibes to the rest of the country and the world?
That is done on the digital lens, and I strongly believe you're one of the colossus on the digital lens. How best can we position Uganda as a preferred tourism destination with the digital marketing? What strategies do we need to take as a nation in that direction?
Of course, now there are existing marketing strategies by the tourism public sector, which segments tourism in about 4 areas: the domestic market, the regional market, where you have Kenya, Tanzania and all other partner states, the rest of Africa, and international markets. So there has been marketing destination representatives hired to promote Uganda, say in the international market, in North America, in the Nordic countries, in the French-speaking countries. And but now we have had this unfortunate pause by COVID. What do you do as a tour operator? What do you do as a sector? I've been seeing young people travel Neza. I take a break UG. Recently, Tulamble, Uganda, created by a Ugandan Kenyan by the names of Kojo, where every Ugandan is dropping the experiences, their stories on a Facebook group. More recently, and I'm happy, Soft Power partnered with the Best Job Ever, where one of our young people, Jonathan, partnered with 3 others and traveled the country in 2 weeks. They have created content, a documentary. So what we need to do now is be more innovative. It is actually possible for one to come out of COVID or come out of this lockdown with a crown of innovation. What if we started virtual tours? Virtual tours, and ensure that now the reach is very wide. It gets to the international community. It gets to everyone else in Uganda. There are markets we have never tapped. You've seen the Minister of State for Tourism, Chiwanda, and the media join him and every one of us to promote domestic tourism. But there are foreign residents here with resident visas whose travel culture, holiday culture is unmatched. This is a market we need to tap. We have the corporate bodies, the business community that we need to tap. But going digital, even when you're posting a story on softpower.ug, for example, a travel story, you can do what we call search engine optimization. Use keywords like gorilla, use keywords as primates, use keywords as the Pearl of Africa, because what's going to determine a tourist's choice of a destination now is going to be safety, is going to be health. Choice of destination will be contingent on health and safety protocols. So how are we communicating this? What the tourism UTB could do is help all these young people in the private sector share their stories all over the world, but above all, summarize this protocol, and Uganda already has one, because a tourist will want to know, if I fly into Uganda, does the airport have the necessary infrastructure to ensure my safety? The shuttle that picks me up, all the way to check-in, concierge, reception, food safety, and these we can communicate using these platforms. Virtual tours, for example, what UTB could do now is ensure that more platforms are built, where, for example, tour operators can sell their packages, and these virtual tours can actually be paid for.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah Kajingo. Peter Mwanje, as a member of the Association of Uganda Tour Operators, I would like to engage you here. What do you think UTB and OA should consider to increase the visibility of Uganda regionally and internationally?
Thank you, Andrew. I'll tell you a story. This story is told of a man called Winston Churchill.
I hope this story is in time.
Yes. This is a story that's over 100 years ago. This guy came, he looked at Uganda, and he wrote in his book that Uganda is the Pearl of Africa. For over 100 years, Uganda has positioned itself or herself as the Pearl of Africa. The time Winston came, we didn't have gorillas, or they were not habituated. Not many people knew about Kalangala, for it. So that's one of the things that we need to look at. When I first entered this line of tourism, I had my little savings. I contracted an American representative. She came through and she was just coming for a week. So we fly to Bwindi. She gets the chance to see the gorilla and takes a picture with the gorilla at her back. And then we fly to Kidepo. She wanted to see the Karimajong. And she wanted to see a herd of elephants. Those are the things that we had been preaching as a destination. While we were still in Kidepo, she sent a tweet back home, and we received, I think, 5 bookings there and then.
Wow.
I sent a tweet on my local tourism platform. I didn't get any. But we've been riding on the back of that one thing. Now we've got COVID. Everything that was built in those 100 years has come to zero, and it died in 6 weeks. So what do we need to do? And I believe you're talking about UTB and OA. First of all, we need to build trust. Government has developed SOPs. OA has developed SOPs. UTB has SOPs. The ministry has SOPs. Us, the private sector, have SOPs. What do we communicate? We need to be able to send out one message from an authentic source. If we say the airport is opening tomorrow, everybody must be saying the same language. So that's one thing. The second thing we need to do is to have strong leadership, both government and private sector. And this is what I mean. Everybody today is preoccupied with fighting COVID. So there's a tendency to put all effort there and forget that businesses are dying and there's a looming recession. So we need our strong leadership that combines common sense and vision.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mwanje. Just I will take a break shortly on air. We're going to have the headlines as we're preparing later on for Kawungezi, and we'll be back shortly. Keep it here.
name is Yvonne Nachibuka Maberi, and I am the Managing Director at Sezibwa Falls Resort. And Sezibwa is an ecotourism adventure location located in Mukono. Sezibwa originally was a Buganda cultural site where the Kabakas used to come and carry out their cultural ceremonies, in particular royal appointments. So it has evolved and has become an ecotourism attraction. Ecotourism involves a number of activities. So here we do camping, we do forest walks, nature walks. We engage with community activities that the tourists would like to experience. We have the restaurant facilities. We also have eco safari lodges that we're constructing at the moment. And we also carry out geographical studies and botany studies, mostly for our students. Yes. Because one of our missions is to ensure that we're always meeting the expectations of our clients, because it's always changing and evolving. With the project, the PSFU project, skills project, we've been able to equip especially our operational staff. This is in the tour guiding department, in the foods and beverage department, as well as the rescue team. So they've been equipped with the skills, and they're more knowledgeable about their roles in how to deliver the service, and they generally, personally, they have been equipped. We've been able to understand when the clients ask for, we're able to respond to their needs and the feedback that they give us. So the staff has been receptive to accepting this feedback and being professional in delivering the service through the skills that they have attained. We've of course had to reposition, re-strategize. We realized that we had been focusing on foreign tourism, and all our efforts are now engineered to domestic tourism. And so we've done this through trying to collaborate with fellow players in the tourism industry to come up with packages that can meet the domestic tourists, educate the people in Uganda about their country, the beauty and nature in their country. But also we've been able to establish gaps and opportunities that create new bottom line centers of income, new centers of income. For example, we were in the process of constructing a zip line, which is an adventure thing that we had not thought of. We've also realized that along the route of Sezibwa, right from its source in Buyuke district to the mouth, there is a range of history and activities that take place. So we're trying to see how we can package Sezibwa to make the experience exceptional. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. That is Sezibwa joining us for this conversation. Everyone seems to be talking about how vital this industry is and how remarkable it is. Now, if this sector is so vital, why has nobody invested in an international quality school offering best hospitality education that the graduates can understand it? Mr. Herbert Biarhanga, please, you'll engage us about that, about the skilling. But first, I want us to know, if everyone is saying it's very vital, why are we not having the right educated people to come through? Because we have graduates, dropouts, everyone joining the industry.
Thank you very much. Tourism business services welcome everybody who comes to do the service. As long as you
tourism is everyone's business.
Yes, but not everybody's qualification. No, it's not everybody's qualification. Therefore, if you want to do tourism, for us at the Sector Skills Council, we believe that the competences that each one has that will make them earn a living or offer the service which are paid for. But you may come with a degree, you may come with a PhD, you may come with, any studies you have done in your life. But if you want to do a service in tourism, it is largely on competencies.
Competence.
So yes, you have to be trained.
I am going to get
You have to be trained to offer that particular service. I have met very many people who have come from engineering, who have come from medicine, law. They come into tourism business because they do train people, and we train them, and they become very good service providers to operators and everybody. So it's something to do with somebody's passion that you have to mix properly with the competencies and ability to offer a service.
Mr. Biarhanga, right there, I'll get back to you later. Let me throw this same question to Professor Ahewa. With all these, the marketing, the packaging, the alignment, everyone says about the same thing. As a nation, why don't we have one particular skill or educational module that says we're going to execute this to make sure that we have this on the market?
Thank you very much. First of all, one important thing we need to note as far as tourism sector is concerned is that yes, the sector is growing. And yes, we want it to contribute to socio-economic transformation. But then we need to develop the capacities of our people so that they can be able to, gain from this sector which is growing. Now, back to your question. If you look at tourism training and capacity development over the last, 20 or 15 years ago, I think there is serious, improvement. Because in Makerere, for example, tourism training started in 1996. And we have got so many other private investors in vocational, institutions that are actually training people in tourism and hospitality. The Jimmy Circuses, there is YMCA in Wandegea, most of the people being trained in hotel and catering, and so many other institutions of private nature. Then we have got individuals like Herbert here who have been now giving those practical skills in guiding, in birding and other, So in terms of the gap that you are trying to highlight in capacity development and having somebody investing in skills development and capacity development, I think we are getting there. Right now, the government is constructing, Ginger, Hospitality Training Institute, and it's going to be a 3-star hotel, which is specifically going to match with Utalii of Kenya, and it's going to offer training. So for me, yes, we might not have that international standard training institution by now, but if it was not because of COVID, I was seeing ourselves heading there. Because normally the private sector to invest in something, there must be demand. And already there was a demand and the need for training. The gaps were there as far as the sector is concerned, and automatically I would see private sector coming in to invest in training, and then all those institutions you are coming up with definitely come up.
Thank you so much, Professor. Back to you, Mr. Herbert here. That said, what should government do to ensure that we have a conducive business environment to shape the business landscape to what the professor is alluding to?
A lot of things should be done.
In 5 minutes.
Very good. A lot of things. One, the government has been talking about sailing Uganda together with other East African countries as one single destination. It is very, very important to note that there is no way we can sail East Africa as a single destination if we don't have the same standards of services. We can never do that. It will never happen. So it's very important at this time to make sure that all the services of East Africa are the same standards. They have curriculum developed which looks at serving the needs of the customers at the same levels. If I'm level 1 in Uganda, I can go to Kenya as level 1 and get a job. If someone's level 1 in Tanzania, can go to Kenya and get a job. So we must look at the same standards so that everybody gets to understand this and appreciate it. In fact, GIZ recently started supporting Usaga to do the East African portal in the same line. We're already in discussions with Kenyans and Tanzanians. I think we shall have a conference very soon to make sure that we focus on having the same standards of the service providers. But for us as a Sector Skills Council, this should cross even in the hotels. So the hotel manager here can go to Kenya and work as a hotel manager, not the other way around, like Kenyan hotel managers flooding Ugandan market, because we do not look at that. The only reason is we are not having the same standards. It's also important that the government should make sure that it institutionalizes the Sector Skills Councils to be given a mandate to oversee the standards
to certify.
across the East African community. Because you can't sell a single East African destination when you don't have same standards. And the sector skills councils are in charge. They are created by Minister of Education to oversee the standards of the sector, which is very, very important.
And finally?
In fact, the other important thing is that all occupations, you mentioned earlier that some people should be, there was a message from Twitter, they should be innovative.
Yes.
Now, the innovativeness brings so many occupations. Now, if they bring occupation, every occupation that comes up, it should be profiled.
Okay.
For us, it should be profiled. For example, there is now a new activity of tree climbing. This tree climbing must have its own standard. It must have its own packages coupled with other products or other activities. The other thing that is important in line with what you have asked, actually the most important thing, is that the government should create environment for doing business. Last week I was trying to open up an account, a dollar account for a certain service. It took me a whole week in the bank and I gave up. A foreign account. The government is quiet about it. But we are dealing in business of foreign, which is a foreign. If it takes long to open up an account, it takes long to get an investment license. What are we talking about here? So the climate is not conducive. If it's not conducive, then government will keep on calling us a leisure, it's a passive, a buys away economy.